Hi everybody, so I'm going to do my labor and delivery vlog for you guys now. I'm sorry that I hadn't gotten a chance to get to it yet. I've been a little busy, as you can imagine, so we'll just go ahead and get going. Starting back the week of the second week of February. Starting about halfway through the week, I started kind of feeling a little off. I didn't really mention it too much in my vlog because I honestly didn't think too much of it, but I could just tell that things didn't feel as normal as they felt before. My appetite was kind of different, and I was having a lot of just like stomach issues and not to be too gross about it, but a lot of loose stools, which they say is a sign of impending labor. And just I kind of felt a little off. Then Thursday, that must have been February 9th, late at night I was going to sleep, regular night, got to bed. About an hour and a half after I went to sleep, I started to not feel good. I woke up and I was just shaking uncontrollably. It was very weird. It's like when you have the chills, but I didn't have any chills. I woke up and I went and came out and was talking to my husband because he was still awake. And he kept asking me, well, do you think this is the baby coming? And I just didn't know what it was. I ended up texting my sister and talking to her. And she said that, you know, she didn't really ever have that until she was actually in active labor. But I wasn't having any contractions and nothing else was going on. But it was very weird. It was maybe a period of an hour and a half where I was just shaking every 10 to 15 minutes, like for a solid 5-10 minutes. And it would just come in periods and go. And it was just so strange. And I ended up calling the hospital, talking to a nurse that was on call, and she thought maybe I was just coming down with a bug, or my blood sugar was low, which I knew it wasn't my blood sugar because I know what that feels like, and it didn't feel like that. But she said that was never anything that she heard of as far as labor went. So she said, you know, just wait it out. I did go online and look at Google and I researched that, and I did find a couple things that people said that could be an early labor sign, just due to your hormone levels changing, that can cause a reaction. But again, you know, it only went on for like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it was really late at night, so I didn't get a very good night's sleep, and I ended up deciding to stay home from work on Friday because I was just so exhausted, and I knew that if I tried to go to work, I probably could have done it, but my energy level was so low. So I ended up staying home on Friday and totally felt normal all Friday. I had my regular doctor checkup that day. It was my 37-week appointment. And I got to my doctor and I was telling him about, you know, what was going on. And again, he didn't think it was anything. He thought maybe I was coming down with the bug as well. And he was, you know, just like, I don't really think too much about it. I don't think it means anything. I don't, you know, just don't worry about it. And I asked if he would check me. Usually he actually doesn't check first-time moms till they're like 38 weeks. He doesn't even do a check. And I just knew I had just been feeling off, so I was just kind of curious to see what was going on. I wasn't really anticipating anything, but I just wanted him to check. So he agreed that he would go ahead and check me, and he was like, you know, I don't even think your cervix is going to be low enough for me to see at this point, but, you know, we'll go ahead and check. So he goes ahead and checks me, and his face was hysterical because he was so shocked. When he checked me, I was 3 centimeters dilated and 50% effaced, and the baby was at a -2 station. So once he saw that, he goes, okay, wow, you are pretty progressed. He was very surprised, especially because I'm a first-time mom. He said that the shaking that I had experienced was probably because the baby was so low in my pelvis, and she was head down and she was right engaged, and he said it was triggering probably a nerve reaction in my body because of how low she was. At that point, he said, you know, the baby could come tonight, she could come 2 weeks from now. You know, you are progressed, but that doesn't necessarily mean labor is imminent. What he did tell me at that point was that if I started to have contractions that were 5 minutes apart, that he wanted me to go to the hospital. Usually with first-time moms, he said he doesn't suggest that they come until contractions are 2 to 3 minutes apart, but because I was progressed, he said he didn't want me to wait any longer than 5 minutes, or if my water broke, he wanted me to go in. So I kind of took it with a grain of salt. I was really surprised, but again, I was like, oh, I don't think she's coming anytime soon. So Saturday, we had our baby shower. We had my third baby shower with my mother-in-law's side of the family. I woke up, totally felt normal all day. We were busy. We were at my in-laws all day till maybe about 5:30 at night. We got home and I unpacked all of the baby shower stuff. I did my vlog. My husband and I were just hanging out at home, and it was, you know, we're just getting things ready, just a normal night. And we said, maybe we should just put the baby's car seat in the car, because we hadn't done that yet, just to be ready. So we go ahead and we put the baby's car seat in the car, in both of our cars, because we have 2 different basins, so since we have 2 different vehicles. So we put the baby's car seat in the car, and then that was like 9 o'clock at night, and I was so wiped out. I was so tired because it had been such a long day and I didn't get a nap in, and we just were so busy. And then Sunday we had a whole list of stuff we needed to do. We were going to go buy the bassinet and the swing, and just buy a lot of stuff that we didn't end up getting at the baby shower that we still needed. So we had a really busy day planned for Sunday. So it was like maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock, and my husband and I were in bed, and we were watching TV. My husband wasn't going to go to sleep, but he was just in bed watching shows. And I ended up falling asleep around 10 o'clock. I woke up about an hour later to go to the bathroom, and I get out of bed, I sit up, and I get out of bed, and I start to feel like water dribbling down me. And I was like, okay, I know sometimes if I don't make it to the bathroom, I can get a little bit of pee, but this was like a constant stream. And as I got up, my bathroom's maybe 8 feet away from my bed. So I got up and started walking, and as I kept walking, it became more and more and more. And I finally got to the bathroom, and my husband was in the bathroom, and there was like a little puddle on the floor by the time I got there. And I look at my husband and I go, I think my water just broke. And he looks at me and he's like, yeah, I think your water just broke, because there was a substantial puddle sitting there. And I just kind of freaked out, and he started freaking out. He's like, okay, well, I'll go start pack everything, because I had like a last minute checklist for him. I did have pretty much our hospital bag was ready, minus a couple little things. So I had a list ready for him in case I went into labor at work, or, you know, just to have ready. So he starts going crazy and going through all of that. And it was pretty funny because my sister had happened to text me completely randomly on something different right as my water broke. And so I call her and I'm like, you know, I'm explaining to her what's going on. She's like, yes, your water broke. Oh my gosh, you're going to have the baby. So I was just totally freaking out. I couldn't believe it was going on. So I ended up calling the hospital because, like I said, my doctor said, if your water breaks, I want you to call the hospital. I want you to go in right away. At that point, I was not having any contractions. So I called the hospital and I explained, you know, I had seen my doctor and I was ready at a 3, and he wanted me to go right away to the hospital if my water broke. So we did that, and I called the nurse and she said, okay, we'll go ahead and have you come in. We'll check you just to make sure that that is what happened, and we'll see if we're going to admit you. She said, you know, it doesn't sound like anything's urgent, so if you want to take a shower, take your time. We'll go ahead and just see when you get here. So I ended up hopping in the shower real quick. We needed to go buy batteries. That was on my long to-do list of stuff because my camera batteries died the day of the baby shower. So I told my husband we had to at least stop and pick up batteries on our way to the hospital. And luckily there's like a little convenience store right by our house. It's open 24 hours. And so we swung in there on our way home, on our way to the hospital. We packed up everything, got in the car, and at that point I just had started having contractions. This was maybe about 11:30. My water broke right about 11. And then we got to the hospital. The hospital was like maybe 10-15 minutes away from our home. And by the time I got to the hospital, I was having contractions that were pretty moderate, but steady at about 5 minutes apart, 5-6 minutes apart. When I got to the hospital, they go ahead and do all the admitting stuff, got me to the triage room to check to see if they were going to actually admit me. When the nurse checked me, I was already at a 5 as far as dilation goes, so obviously I was going to get to stay. They had to do preliminary things, and you know, at that point I was definitely in active labor. So when I got there, I asked the nurse if I could get an epidural, because I know you have to be so far progressed, but I wasn't 100% sure if I was far enough. And she said, yeah, well, definitely. We'll call the anesthesiologist, and we'll have them come up, because it's going to be probably about a half hour before they get here. So they finished all that stuff, got me checked into a room, and at that point my contractions were pretty intense. For all of you who do natural labor, my hat's off to you, because the contractions were brutal by that point. It was not comfortable at all. So pretty much right when I got checked into my room, the anesthesiologist came and I got my epidural, and I was feeling a lot better at that point. I started to not feel the pain as much, but I still had a ton of pressure as I continued to dilate. I dilated pretty fast. I went from 5 to 7, then to 8, and then the longest part for me was from 9 to 10. I wasn't 100% thinned out, and she was really low, and I just had so much pressure, and I felt like I wanted to push, and it was so hard because I wasn't quite at a 10 yet, and they didn't want me to start pushing, but she was just very, very engaged, and it was very uncomfortable. So like I said, for you who do natural labor, oh my gosh, you guys are amazing, because it was intense and hard for me, and I had the epidural, so it was crazy. So by that point, I finally got to a 10, I think around 2 a.m. in the morning. You can imagine how exhausted I was, considering I hadn't slept since Friday night, because we were up all day Saturday. I maybe got an hour's sleep on Saturday. I was tired, I was hungry, it was a long night. So I started pushing at about, okay, no, that wasn't right. I was at a 10 at 4 a.m. I'm sorry, not 2 a.m. 4 a.m. when they had me start pushing, and I pushed for a solid almost 2 hours. It was brutal. It was very, very long. The baby was just, she was in an awkward position, and it took me just a long time to get her right into a good place where she was ready to come. So I pushed for a solid 2 hours. Again, you can imagine how exhausted I was, not having any sleep. It was very, very hard, but somehow you just find the energy to do it. So we pushed and we pushed and we pushed, and I pushed on both. They had me move. Thankfully, I was able to move really well with my epidural. My legs felt funny, but I was still able to have a lot of control of my body. So that was something I was not 100% sure about previously, because I've never had an epidural, but I could definitely move. So they had me push from my left side to the center, to the right side, back to the center, to the left. So I was just constantly moving, trying to push this little girl out. Finally, she was ready to come, and we just started to push. I did end up having to have an episiotomy because of the way that she was positioned. When she was ready to come out, her hand was right by her head, and the umbilical cord was wrapped around her. So not only was I pushing her whole head out and her shoulders, she was all kind of one chunk of body. So the doctor did give me an episiotomy so I didn't tear any more than that. So I wasn't really hoping that I had to do that, but again, like I said in my birth plan video, whatever needs to be done, I'm all about, to get her safe and to have me be safe. So he went ahead and did that, and I pushed her out, and like I said, she was had her hand up by her face, and as I pushed her out, the umbilical cord got really tight around her neck. So when she came out, she was completely blue. I didn't see this very much because there's so much going on, and they don't obviously tell you because they don't want to freak you out, but my husband had saw that she was so blue, and I knew something was a little strange because they ended up calling the NICU team in to check on her after she was out. And my husband didn't get to cut the umbilical cord, so I knew something was strange. So once she was out, they put her on me for maybe 30 seconds, and then they took her over to the little like station that they had set up next to me. And they ended up checking her. She had just had a ton of fluid in her, so they had to take a fluid out of her nose and out of her throat. Her lungs were just she had just had a ton of fluid. Once they got the fluid out, she cried, and she was completely perfect and normal. All of her coloring came back, and she was just absolutely wonderful. So that's pretty much it. I mean, that's our story. She was born at 6:49 a.m. and it was a long night, but it was well worth it, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. It was just the most intense experience of my life, and it's crazy that you just find a way to do it. I still look back and think, wow, how did I do that? But she's here now, and she was worth every bit of it, and it's just been wonderful. So that is my labor and delivery story. If you guys have any questions, leave them as a comment below, and I will try and answer them for you. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.